Good evening. I'll now call the City of Cannon Falls City Council meeting to Tuesday, September the 2nd to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Holst.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Mattson.
Here.
McCusker.
Oh, yeah.
Schobloom.
Here.
And Mayor Robinson.
Here. All please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting. At this time, the Chair will take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So, I'll second.
All right.
Get it done.
I got Merle and then Bill.
We got an echo in here.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is approved. That moves us on to public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda before speaking. Please give your name and address for the minutes. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing that there is no one here who wishes to speak, we'll move on to public hearings. That'll be the liquor license violation for Sol de Mexico. Chief McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you recall, 2 meetings ago I prepared a memo for council regarding this, asking that a public hearing be set for this evening. At that time, we'd received notice from the state of Minnesota, the Department of Health specifically, that Sol de Mexico had not renewed their 2014 food service license. And as part of that, they were going to be issuing a cease and desist order to Sol de Mexico to stop operation. However, as part of their enforcement process, they also then notify the cities when this type of thing occurs. And the city code requires that restaurants have at least a medium food service license as part of one of the requirements for renewal or issuance of license. In this case, it would have been a renewal. And Sol de Mexico did not have that at that time, according to the state. Following the meeting, Sol de Mexico was served a copy of the notice. It was also published, and obviously we're here for this evening for that public hearing. I see nobody representing Sol de Mexico at this meeting or public hearing, and so therefore I'll lay the information out for the council on the facts as I know them and my recommendation.
At this time, we will open up the public hearing.
Okay. In 2013, Sol de Mexico requested a license renewal for the operational year of 2014. The City Council granted that, provided the administrative components were met. We received the information from them that would generate the renewal of that license, and it was done. In July 29th of 2014, I received a phone call. Well, actually, first Diane Howard received the phone call and transferred it to me. And I spoke with State of Minnesota Department of Health enforcement officer, who advised that the Sol de Mexico restaurant did not have a valid food service license. They had been notified since, I believe he said February, and had not come into compliance, and they were now notifying us. And as such, I reviewed our code and found that the food service was a component and requested that this public hearing be held. I checked with the Department of Health this morning and received an updated email and then spoke with them. And as of this point, they had not received compliance from Sol de Mexico. I informed them that they had ceased operation approximately a month ago, which was news to him. They'd sent somebody out to check on the location at the end of July and found them operating at that point. And they just had not been back out since. At this point, it would appear that they were operating without the requirements of our code. As such, the license that was issued to them, I don't think should have been issued had we known that, and that I would ask the council to revoke their liquor license. I realize that at this point they've closed doors, but I still think it's appropriate for council to take recognition of the facts and make a finding regarding what sanction, if any, they would like to impose.
I think, just from my perspective, if you're not going to be operating under the law, I mean, not renewing it's something that is detrimental to public health, to the public, and at this time, if they can't operate under the law, then I think it should be revoked.
Yeah, it's certainly my understanding that that they're out of business and they've just cleaned out.
I have all indications to believe that, but the license was still granted. I would hate to see it remain in that granted status
What,
without council taking action.
what do we have for penalties? What penalties could we impose?
You could impose, I'd have to pull up this code specific, but, you know, the council has a wide range of penalties. Typically, we have a matrix that would spell out, if you recall, in previous incidents where we have a first-time infraction, it's either a 3-day suspension or a $500 fine, and it ranges from that all the way up to the revocation. And the code does provide for deviation from the matrix in circumstances that warrant. I think in this case, the fact that they renewed knowing that they hadn't renewed their food service license, we wouldn't have granted that to any other request for license without that. I think that warrants the most severe sanction on their license status.
And if we revoke the license, which I think we should, can they get a license someplace else? Is there some way that we can tag them?
They would not be able to easily renew their license here. And if they're making applications somewhere else, they should be disclosing all the locations that they've been.
And if they don't?
If they don't, then
We
that entity would have to deal with the deceptive component of that application at that point, if they discovered it.
Would notifying the health department do anything?
I spoke with them today that council was going to be taking this matter under a public hearing and would advise them of the outcome.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
You know, Jeff, I think when something like this happens with a business, it's always kind of sad. I know there was a lot of people that ate there and stuff. And I feel bad for the situation, and I don't really want to know the circumstances or anything. But I wouldn't be comfortable with penalizing somebody. I'm sure there's enough bad things or bad feelings or something with their business failing and employees lost their jobs that I don't see any reason to reprimand somebody for something like that. So I just I feel bad for the situation, but I don't want to do any fines or anything like that. People got to move on with their lives, figure out the next step. Thank you.
Well,
There's no other further discussion. I mean, you got any further discussion? Because we can close the public hearing and then make our decision from there. So let's this time, we'll close the public hearing, and then we can discuss what action we're going to take.
Jeff, revocation doesn't involve any fines. It's just that they can no longer operate in Cannon Falls.
Right. What my recommendation is not a fine. It's just the revocation of the license, effectively making it a crime for them to sell alcohol had they been still open. My recommendation would not have differed. The only thing that may have changed it is had they renewed their license prior to this hearing, I probably would have been recommending a suspension. But the type of situation, I think, really does escalate this up to that sort of upper level of penalty. Mm-hmm. And I certainly do not recommend or envision any financial penalty from the council, just the revocation of that license.
I mean, the fact that nobody's here from the business here tonight, shows they don't really care.
It kind of speaks for itself.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I make a motion, we revoke their license.
And I will second that.
I have a motion by Merle and a second by Bill to revoke the liquor license for Sol de Mexico. Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Mayor, with that, I did prepare a resolution, number 2097, specific to any action that the council may dictate based on the recommendation of the city attorney. If you'd want, I can give it to you, or I can read it, whichever you'd prefer.
We can take it, that we got to approve the resolution then also. Or we can amend the motion. Sorry, voted, okay. Yeah. All right, so we have Resolution 2097, resolution revoking the liquor license, whereas the City of Cannon Falls regulates liquor license, and whereas the City of Cannon Falls issued a liquor license to Sol de Mexico Incorporated for the year of 2014, and whereas the City of Cannon Falls Police Department learned from the State of Minnesota Department of Health on July the 29th, 2014, that Sol de Mexico Incorporated did not review their food service license January the 1st, 2014, and whereas the City of Cannon Falls requires a valid food service license as part of the requirement to obtain a liquor license, and now therefore it be resolved that the City of Cannon Falls, after holding a public hearing and considering the facts of this matter, has ordered the liquor license of Sol de Mexico Incorporated revoked effective this date, adopted by the City Council. So I'll take a motion to approve Resolution 2097.
So moved.
And I'll second.
A motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
This time we'll move on to the consent agenda. Items on this area of the agenda may be discussed or may be adopted, or they may be removed and placed on the business area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. For those folks at home, I'll read the consent agenda. Item A is the just and correct claims for accounting period ending August the 28th, 2014. Item B are the meeting minutes for August 19th, 2014 City Council meeting. Item C is the Fire Department Relief Association pensions increase request. Item D, Resolution 2094, approving a public auction or auction to adjacent owners on tax forfeited non-conservation land. Item E, Resolution 2095, adopting the preliminary tax levy and budget collectible in 2015 and setting a public meeting date. Item F, Resolution 2096, accepting a monetary donation to the Police Department from Lynn Carpenter. Are there any items anybody wishes to bring down?
D.
Okay, item D will become item 8B.
I got A, F, and E.
A, F, and E?
Yeah.
Okay, item A will become 8D. And item E is going to become item 8C. With the removal of, and F also? Leroy, did you say F also?
A, E, and F, yep.
Okay, and F will become item 8E. So with the removal of items A, D, E, and F, the chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moves us on to item 8 this evening, council business, ambulance personnel recommendations. Ron?
Thank you. This is what's being brought forward to you tonight as a result of the Personnel Committee's recommendation from last August 19th meeting. Brenda has been serving as director for many years and is desiring to step down as director and fill the paramedic position that's vacant. The committee talked about it, and the recommendations are included in your packet to approve the reassignment of Brenda from ambulance director to paramedic, effective upon a to-be-determined date, whether council directs an interim director to be put on board or whether we wait until a full director be placed on board. Then she would still remain in the directorship position until either date. And then also the recommendation to authorize me to negotiate for an interim ambulance director. And then authorize the advertising for an ambulance director. And I think it should be emphasized that the committee really thanked Brenda for her years of service, knew it was a tough decision to step aside, and wished her the best in her new position, assuming she's hired. But she really, kudos to you, Brenda. But these are the recommendations being brought forward from the Personnel Committee. And then there was also the requested action to advertise for another, actually not advertise for another full-time paramedic, but we had approximately a half a dozen applications for the paramedic position that Brenda applied for also. And the committee's asking for approval to interview from that group for hiring of another full-time paramedic.
And one of the reasons for that is with the new hospital here, we are already down paramedic as it is, and with the runs that the ambulances make from the hospital to either Mayo or to Regions or to some other hospital transferring patients, if we don't have the paramedics on board to be able to fill those slots, then our ambulances can't make that run, and that means a loss of revenue. And we'll make up that revenue as we go on, or make up the cost. But if we lose that revenue, we've lost it, and it's not getting it back. We don't want to go across and Randolph and other ambulance services to get the business out of our town and out of our hospital. So that was one of the main reasons we need to staff up. Also,
It certainly was the long-range plan to add a fourth paramedic. We originally were planning on it early to mid next year, but we want to get, as long as we're hopefully making these changes this evening, that would make more sense to do it now with the existing pool of applicants that we have. Also, I'd like to personally thank Brenda for all her years of service as ambulance director, and hopefully here tonight you will be granted your wish to become our paramedic on our force, and I hope that the rest of the council will be willing to approve the actions that the Personnel Committee has suggested.
and we will do it motion step by step.
Yes.
So that we get it straight. Any other discussion before we go for motions? Okay, so motion one is to approve the reassignment of Brenda Voschleik from ambulance director to paramedic at grade 9, step 7, effective upon to be a determined date, either date of commencement of new director or interim director.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
A motion by Bill, second by Merle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Item 2, authorize the city administrator Johnson to negotiate on behalf of the city for an interim ambulance director for council approval on 9/16. Is there any discussion on an interim director?
Do you have anybody in mind, Brenda?
Well, Ron does.
Okay.
I do. It was actually a person that we'd offered a position to, the directorship to in Lake City. He's a firefighter, or retired firefighter, paramedic from Red Wing. And
Okay.
I think we could probably work something out.
It's certainly at least worth exploring and asking him and see if he'd be interested in the short term.
Okay.
Is there any other further discussion? If not, Chair will take a motion to authorize City Administrator Johnson to negotiate on behalf of the city for an interim ambulance director for council approval on 9/16.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Merle. Any further discussion?
Hopefully, we take all candidates into consideration, especially if there's somebody locally. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 3 is the authorized advertising for a permanent ambulance director.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Merle. Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Item 4 is the authorizing the Task Force of Ambulance Director Von Schleich, Police Chief McCormick, and Administrator Johnson to interview from the existing pool of those that applied for the existing paramedic position and provide a recommendation to hire at a future council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Merle. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thanks, Brenda, for all your hard work, and as soon as we can get somebody on to help you from doing the double duties, we'll do that.
Thanks, Brenda.
All right, at this time, we'll move on to item 8B, which is the Resolution 2094 approving a public auction or auction to adjacent owners on tax forfeited non-conservation land.
My question is, I thought the state already owned this on some of this land, or,
What we're going by here is a letter from Goodhue County.
right?
There are 2 parcels there that they are saying that are up for non-payment of property taxes. Both of them are non-conservation land. So this is what they're asking you to consider as saying either you...
Ron, there was some confusion back a few years ago when the state did buy the land adjacent to the Subway store, and some thought at that time that included this parcel in back of Subway and the First Farmers and Merchants. So I think that's where the questions
Yeah,
really
the question
stem
comes
from.
from there, because when we were talking about the interchange back a couple years back, when they were purchasing land, they talked about having to go in there and clean up the area inside that area that we have in question here. So that's what brings up the question that the state has already purchased that. We were under the presumption that they had already done that because they're the ones that brought up they'd have to go in and clean it up before they could even do anything.
Okay, so in either case, for intents and purposes of what the county's asking us for, they're really looking to see if we have interest in it, or if not, allow them to do whatever they want, so that it would be their issue on their end, regardless, is what I would say. Dave?
I should say, too, just for, I think, for clarification, there are 2 different pieces of property that I think you're referring to. The part that they bought for the highway project they still own, this is north of that.
Right.
So I think it's 2 separate parcels.
It's down in that valley or that
Yeah.
waterway or whatever.
And
Was
Greg,
owned by the loop piece.
right, and Greg, I guess I would ask you this question. That parcel there in north of the Subway and south of First Farmers, can that be used for anything?
I don't think so. We've got utilities through there, but my impression that that's all in the floodway.
But, so it would not be buildable, in your opinion, in any way, shape, or
So
form?
I think you got to get up to the elevation of our lift station before you get to a usable elevation
Okay.
above that dry run.
Because if that's the case, then
Yeah, I mean,
we
there's
should
no-
let the county worry about it.
Well, and we'd have to have a defined public use for it, which
Right.
we didn't see as staff that there were any that would fit for either of these 2
And I
pieces.
can't see any, well, in addition to that second piece of property by Cedar Hill, on Cedar Hills there, that's also not a buildable. A lot,
Is it?
you think? Or is it?
It'd be really questionable.
That seems pretty iffy there.
It's a platted, it's an existing platted, single-family lot with some challenging development obstacles.
That's a way to put
The
it.
right price, maybe, but we didn't see it as a public purpose lot.
Okay,
Okay.
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 Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Just in answering your question, Bill, on the parcel behind the Subway, we have had some issues when we've experienced high water, as far as water coming through there and flooding out that area. So I would agree that, as far as development, it would take a lot, as Greg pointed out, to get it to that point. I don't know if it would have a public purpose, but it would be something that, as the county takes that property, we want to kind of keep an eye on. So that we don't see something go in there that we're going to have problems with later. would be my only concern from the emergency management side.
Okay.
Yep.
The only thing, Robbie, is I would point out is the original septic system was put in back there from Hardee's when that was originally built. So make sure whatever we do that somebody takes care of that, and we aren't liable. I don't know that it's ever been taken out of there. It's just disconnected. So make sure that if we do something or the city ends up with that, that we're not liable for that. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, then, the chair will take a motion to approve resolution, adopt the resolution, which is, did you have a resolution tonight?
2094.
Okay. Approve Resolution 2094, approving public auction or auction to adjacent owners of parcels 57.7192400 and 52.720.0100 by Goodhue County.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to item 8C, which is Resolution 2095, adopting the preliminary tax levy and budget collectible in 2015 and setting a public meeting date.
What was the original one, Robbie?
This is E. Yep.
Okay. I guess the question I had on there, thinking about our budget and stuff and then looking everything over, is I know the EDA has quite a shortage in their balance. Is that something that's going into the budget this year, or does that just stay that way because of loans, or how does that work with our budget stuff?
Well, there's a certain amount in here for EDA, but I know Dave and I have had some discussions as far as in the future as to how to look at the revenues and so forth from the EDA, or that the EDA has been taking in, but nothing's come to council at all. I mean, it's kind of status quo from last year as how the EDA sets out in this budget.
I think there's a negative of something like 72% or something on the EDA budget.
There's one particular item in that.
Are you talking about the revolving loan EDA, or are you talking the EDA?
No, I'm talking about just looking at the budget, the regular budget that we get. And
Oh, the budget reports that I sent you?
right. And it shows
Just
a
money
negative
we
in there.
spent.
Yeah, the most recent budget report that you received probably does show that. That's because the first half of the tax levy has not been credited to those funds yet. We get that in July, and so you will see the half of the levy that we made, or that was approved last year, that we collect this year, will be given or appropriated to that fund. So it's not as bad as it looks.
It'll kind of balance itself out.
It will, yeah. When we budgeted for that, it was a balanced budget.
Okay. The other thing I was wondering about, looking the budget over, or the EDA, I was kind of concerned about when you look over the park department stuff. I'll get on to that on the next one, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, when we're looking at this, because this is the preliminary budget that we have to submit to the state, and we're looking at, what was it,
8.2.
8.2. I mean, we need to, before we approve it, we need to look at it and say, okay, do we want to start at 8.2, and where are we going to set, what's our goal for the city to look at for passing a budget because we have to do that for later in the year. I mean, 8.2 definitely is not where we want to be. I mean, people's salaries haven't gone up. I know we have to raise a little revenue to keep the city running and pay for some things, but we still need to look at where we want the city to be. And I mean, if we need to lower this now a little bit before we go further, or what we need to do at this point. I mean, are there items in there that can be taken out now, or do we want to wait, go ahead and pass it at 8.2 and then look at pulling some of those things out as we move forward?
Well, something I I want to mention every year is when we set a preliminary levy, a lot of times the public misconstrues that as their taxes are going up by 8.2%, and we want to make sure that they understand this is not the final levy, which we will decide in December, but just a preliminary. This is the absolute highest we can go if we approve this, but our hope is certainly to get it lower.
And
And taking off of what Councilmember Duncan just said too, is that, yeah, we can't set it any higher in December. We can set it lower and likely will. The one thing about that is that the other factor involved with the tax rate, of course, is the tax capacity, and we don't have those numbers from Goodhue County yet, and so that'll help us and you set that final levy is when we know those tax capacity numbers, and we will know closer to when we set a levy as to exactly how much will a 5% levy increase or levy budget increase translate directly into a 5% tax increase or tax rate increase. We're hoping not, because we're hoping the tax capacities are coming up, as Mayor Robinson mentioned at the last meeting.
With the incoming, hopefully with more taxable property, our capacity
Hopefully
will
those
rise.
numbers are up.
but I think we should probably look at, at a target, because, even 5%, is unacceptable at this point to try to raise the levy, unless we have something that's, catastrophic or something at this point. I don't think many citizens can afford it.
I would assume, Ron, that we would probably have a work session before the final budget is adopted.
Yeah, and we'll be doing some work as department heads too.
I think we might have to have more than one work session to finalize this thing if we go with this 8%.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I got a motion by Leroy.
I'll second.
I have a second by Bill to approve the levy at 8.2% as the preliminary levy, I should say, which is resolution number 2095. We have a second?
Yeah, I second.
Okay. A motion by Leroy, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, that moves us on to item 8D, which is adjusting correct claims. Leroy?
Oh, okay, on that one, I seen, from Excel in July for the library, it was $768 and some cents. I was just kinda wondering what that was about. Certainly must have been something going on. Electric bill couldn't have been that high. I don't need an answer tonight, but I'd kinda like to hear back from you on that one. The other one was, on page 3 of 5, Hawking Inc., and it was chemicals of $5,669.86, and I was just wondering if that was salt or something for Public Works or what that was.
That was that.
Could that be for the pool?
Sounds like chemical at the plant, but we'll check on that for you.
That was, I think it was that we had that email from Public Works about the foam in there, and that was that yeast that they had, or that stuff they had to put in there to try to get rid of it.
Okay,
That's what Hawkins was,
okay.
but we can get an answer.
That's it, I guess.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
A motion by Leroy,
And I'll second.
second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moves us on to item 8F, or item 8E, which is the resolution accepting a monetary donation to the police department.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that because I wanted to thank Mr. Carpenter and his family for his years of service on the council. Wanted to thank them for the donation, and I like the way your thinking is on that, Jeff. The only thing that I would add to it is if there's any way we could go to Chicago Heads and get a little plaque made up and put on that lamp recognizing his years of service. And whatever works, I'm fine with that, but it'd just be nice to have a little plaque on there if that's possible on the lamp.
I think there'd be something we can do.
Okay, with that, Chairman, take a motion to approve Resolution 2096, accepting a monetary donation to the police department.
So moved.
Motion by Bill. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Jay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. This time we'll go to reports. Mr. Maroney.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Greg?
Second Street update, they did all the curb work today, filled in the 5 or 6 holes from the water service connections. That'll sit for a few days. Ron and Tom and I met with out there at the contractor. They have to be all done by next Friday, which I think they'll easily do. There's a possibility they'll be done before that with all the blacktop and the curb. So that'll be getting wrapped up here before the next meeting.
Okay. Thanks. Brenda? Chief?
Well, believe it or not, we're already the first day of school. It has wrapped up. I just want to remind people they will see more kids standing outside waiting for buses adjacent to the roadway or on it. Kids riding their bikes to and from school, that type of thing, and parents dropping off up at the elementary. Just ask them to be extra careful and mindful of others. For those parents at the elementary, remember that when you drop off, you need to just drop them off. Don't park your car in the lane there. It really starts backing up traffic. We typically are going to have officers up there at drop-off and pick-up time just to help remind parents and make sure that the school year gets off to a smooth start for everyone. That's all I have.
And I have nothing.
Merle?
Thank you, Brenda, for all you have done for this community. Appreciate it.
Nothing. Just what Merle said.
Leroy?
So the email we got, Ron, does that mean the right-hand turn lanes and blend-in lanes, that's dead in the water, or are we still moving ahead, or what are we doing there?
The study that you authorized SEH to do jointly with MnDOT is still undergoing, still in process, but they did pull out, the blacktop and so forth on each side of the highway today, and so the study's still in place. I mean, they're not stopping on
MnDOT's
that.
still open to that, or everything is being studied?
Yeah.
But this was just the lights going out officially being done, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that right-hand turnoff they took the asphalt out of there today.
Right. But there's a possibility we could still get that back later.
If the study says so and
And we want to
we
pay
find
for it.
money to do it later, yeah.
Right, right. And then the other thing is, Brenda knows how I feel about the years of service she's given us. I think it's phenomenal. Been a very good director for us. Goes back to her and Ron Freeberg and Mike Eltoff, and just very much appreciate it, Brenda, and wish you the best, whichever direction you go. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Brenda, for all your years. Appreciate it working with you through the towing and now and everything. So it's been real fun. Another thing I asked Tom a couple weeks ago or mentioned about shortening up or cleaning up the brush or lilac bush or whatever it is in the alley over between 1st and 2nd Street, between Main and Mill. I was just curious if they did anything with that, or they're having difficulty coming out of the alley, being visible.
Okay. I'll check with them.
Is that by Park Street?
No, up on
Okay.
Main and Mill, between 2nd and 1st.
Okay. That Park,
By
behind Park Street, that
Dick
never
Walters.
got painted either, Ron. Still didn't get painted.
Like
Sorry.
Dick Walters' place there.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Leroy.
The painting down there that they came to us about for their driveway down behind Freeborn Manor, that still hasn't been done either.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we could get at that fairly quick.
I know Tom sent me an email, or copied me on an email. That has been ordered. It's just the vendor that does that for him will fit it in. I'm assuming it's probably somewhat connected to the more recent rain and weather type stuff, but I know Tom was working on it. But I'll remind him, or Ron will, somebody will.
I also want to thank Brenda. You've done a great job, and people in the city are very thankful to you. Also, I got one question about the library. I guess they were out there, I know, today again on the south side saying it still isn't fixed. They haven't looked really, the guy said, on the east side, which was where the water was coming in also. I don't know.
Yeah, this is what they did today was they were testing windows because they were thinking that possibly they want to make sure that there's not infiltration coming in through the windows. But yeah, we had, during the heavy rainfalls we had 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, there was water again. That was the site I saw the first day I started here in March, and got to look at it again. So they're still Bossert is still authorizing AET, American Engineering, to keep trying to find the source, and that was kind of process of elimination is what they were doing today.
Brenda, thanks. I know you'll still do a great job as a paramedic. I mean, this has been your life's work, and you're dedicated to it, so I want to thank you for everything you've done with that. The interchange is open. People have to get used to driving around the roundabouts if they haven't. I know they're going to be a thing in the future, not just here. If you go to Mankato right now, they're taking stoplights out left and right, and nothing but roundabouts down there on a lot of different roads. So it's a thing in the future, and people will get used to them. And we'll keep working. Hopefully that safety study will come back. Try to give us something. I did talk to the engineer down there at MnDOT about maybe keeping that open, but he didn't even call me back. So I guess MnDOT's up to their old tricks. They don't call you back. But let's be safe driving out there, and let's see. Enjoy our new interchange. There's no traffic lights on 52 anymore, all the way to Chicago. So. With that, congratulations to the Bomber football team for winning their first game the other night, and see the volleyball team is playing well. They beat Red Wing the other day too, so congratulations to them, and hope they all have a good year. And at this time, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.